Tam. How are you doing?
What an adventure it has been.
I mean, nonstop, right? How's the mountain life?
We were supposed to do this the other day because I was supposed to be in a hotel a day ago, but I got stuck in a snowstorm.
How was that? Oh, yeah, you didn't have the snow tires, did you?
No. Roxy, you have okay. So there's a pass. So where we are, to explain where everyone is, we're driving from Los Angeles up. We were driving up to Montana, and now we're driving to South Dakota. So what we're doing is we had to go to Jackson Hole. We didn't have to go, but apparently Jackson Hole is really amazing, and it is. It's like kind of like a mini Vail of Colorado. I don't know if you've been there. I've never been, so I'm not like a snow person at all. And so we get to this little town called Teton. I keep saying Teton or Teton.
Yeah, the Tetons, like where the Tetons are. Mm-hmm.
So we get there, and before that is a little town called Driggs. And we're going from Driggs to Jackson, and there's a pass from Driggs to Jackson. That's a small little road, and it's at nighttime. So we're like, you know what? We've been driving. It's like, it's icy out, but it's not snowing. Everything should be fine. Roxy, it is fucking vertical cliffs on both sides in the ice, in the dark, and it starts snowing. And our car gets stuck going up the mountain, and we could not move the car. I actually thought for the first time, I've had a couple of near-death experiences, but I was like, this is going to be it. We're going to die in this little overpass from Driggs to Jackson Hole. And so we had to turn around.
And you had to go all the way back?
We had to go all the way back to Driggs. And then we called about 20 people and we're like, hey, are you open? They're like, no, it's not the season. So we had it was going to be a Motel 6 and that was it. And I was worried that a Motel 6, what I'd heard is like there could be bed bugs in a Motel 6.
You're like, that and the COVID risk is not worth it.
I'm like, this is not it. So we were driving and then I saw like a mirage, like in the middle of the desert. I saw this little light on that said vacancy, and there was this tiny little motel, and I ran in. I was like, do you have vacancy? Do you? And she was like, yes, we have one room. And I was like,
just like the movies.
But what have you been doing since you've not been in the snow?
Oh, God, Tammin. I'm like, when is this never going to? So basically, it's been crazy over here in LA. My husband actually recently started going back to his office. He's the only one in the office. So it's just him, but it's like his escape. So I'm left juggling homeschool and work and 3 dogs, one that wants to kill the other 2. Of course. And so it's just always like a 3-ring circus here. So I was like, literally when we had our recording set up for today, I'm like, can we please do it right after my husband gets home? I'm like, because I need to be saved. And literally my getting ready today was comprised of me throwing a blue sweater on top of my pajamas and throwing on a red lip. Here we go. Oh my God. I'm ready.
Yeah. I don't even know if I changed my underwear. I'm like, have I changed my underwear? It's so hard because I feel like, even on this road trip, there is, I mean, if I turn my computer around, you'd see there's no escapes. I went to the toilet. I said that I needed to go to the bathroom for a very long time, which I didn't, but just to sit on the toilet. And so I could do some fucking emails. Like people were like, why are you not responding to me? And it's like, the reason I'm not responding to you is because every 2 seconds, my child is asking for water or this or attention, or can she do this? Or mommy. I wanted to record today in the car. Both of them were saying mommy so many times that it's that game of like, if you drink and you'd be dead by the time, if you drank every time someone said mommy. But literally, Roxy, it was just like mommy. And to the point where I don't want to be a mother who explodes, but I have on this trip.
Yeah.
Exploded a few times because you get to a breaking point and a brink of your tolerance level, and also like you're like a pressure cooker, and at some point your limbic system gets so high, and then you just explode.
Well, I was going to ask you, I'm like, I know it's been very picturesque according to your Insta stories.
No, it hasn't. If you've been looking at my Insta stories, you see I'm drinking wine with cork in the wine.
Yeah, like straight out of the bottle. I'm like, yes. So how many times have you thought about homicide on this trip?
It's funny because, we've been gone for a month now, and the first 3 weeks were wonderful because we had an Airbnb. And so we were set up. So the first week we were at one Airbnb and the second week we were at this other Airbnb, which I loved. It was about an hour outside of Missoula in Montana. And it was nice because we had all our stuff and we had our space. And so when the baby was up at night, one of us would go with the baby, the other person got to sleep. The problem with the road trip situation is also we don't want to do this extravagant. Like we budgeting is my middle name. Like I don't want to be spending so much money on this road trip. I think it's smart not to. So we are staying at hotels. Like, you know, when they say, would you like $100 for the extra space? I say no. Because because every time you do the $100 extra space, you end up spending $1,000 for really not much. So I do try to go, okay, no, I'm not going to do the extra space. The problem is by not doing the extra space, something has to give. And by giving, it's like our mental state.
Yeah, because when you're staying with two little kids and your husband in one room, there's not a place to like go and like stick your head out the window. I don't know. Like how do you get away, you know?
I mean, we've been pretty, like I said, the first 3 weeks were actually pretty amazing because even the other day before we left on this trip, like we both did face masks. We were watching, you know, the news together. We fell asleep, like intertwined. Like it was actually pretty magical. It was really good for our relationship. We were talking so much because there was a fire. It was like, oh my God, this is wonderful. Again, I use that word limbic system. Our limbic system had come down because I feel like LA is very stressful. But then you put 4 of us in one room. And I do find that most of this trip has been packing and unpacking. Yeah. It takes 3 hours to fucking get out of the room. It takes 3 hours to get back in the room. You know, to dress the kids takes 45 minutes to leave. So we haven't done as much on this road trip as I've wanted to because it just takes so much time to do anything. You know, and that's why I think RVs are a good idea. But then RVs come with their own, you know, problems like sucking poo from the toilet. And also snow. Like if you're on the snow and you're skidding like us, you don't want to do that with a really heavy vehicle. So, you know, there's pros and cons to that. But I think we'll remember the shit parts and all.
Yeah. And then once you get to like a warmer climate, it should be like a little more manageable because you are headed to Texas eventually, correct?
I know.
My home state.
I know. We're going to go to Austin for like a month or so, which you have to tell me like what to do and where to go. Yes. It's 80 degrees. So I don't know. My body's not going to be used to it.
I think we're going to make a margarita drinker out of you yet.
Oh, I love margaritas.
Okay, good. Well, why don't you drink them with me?
I know. I stopped drinking, and then now that I drink again, I'm like, why did I do that?
See, I love it. I love it because you've gone to from 0 to 60. You were like, for 6 months, I'm not drinking at all. Now I look and you're drinking straight out of the bottle.
I straight with the cork in the bottle. And I gave Phoenix that night, that dinner 2 nights ago. She had carrots and pirate booty for dinner. And Lennon had cereal that she was pouring on the carpet the whole time. I was like, they said they had a really good COVID policy. They don't let anyone in the room for a week and a half. They scrub it down twice. They go in hazmat suits. It's a true story. So I felt really comfortable. Yeah. But I was like, oh God, but now she's eating off the floor. But I think we're okay.
You got to just go with it, right? It's like mom life. It never, and it's like, you just can't plan the punches. You just can't plan it, you know?
You can't do it. Would you do, so I know that COVID is spiking right now everywhere. And so that has really made me worried. And I also don't want people who follow our road trip to think that we're being careless because we're being really careful about every step that we take. And and we're not like, you know, the only 2 restaurants we've eaten in, we've made like we've called before and see like their real COVID policy and like how they're really doing things. Cause you can't eat outside when it's freezing outside, you know? But we're not going into toy store. We're not doing any of that stuff. So I really urge people to be as careful as they can. But I know that's spiking in Los Angeles too. So like, how are you guys feeling about it?
So, you know, it's kind of crazy because it's sort of thrown a wrench into our, you know, holiday travel plans because we already sort of, we were going to go to see my husband's family in Boston for Thanksgiving, you know, pre-COVID and everything for Thanksgiving. And then, so we canceled that.
You're like, oh, well.
You gotta do what you gotta do. So no East Coast for us for Thanksgiving. And then we were going to go to Texas, to Dallas, where I'm from, to visit my family. I know I really want to, but now apparently, I mean, according to the news, the number one COVID state
Texas.
right now is Texas.
And it is Dallas. It's not Austin, but it is Dallas.
Yeah, it's Dallas. And the numbers are spiking. And so also in California, I keep hearing, I mean, by the time this runs, we might already be back in lockdown, but there is like a prospective lockdown that might happen. And then a friend was also telling me today that they're going to issue some sort of a like a travel, like if you a quarantine once you come back into California for 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm just like, oh my God, no, you're right. We're never leaving. I'm like, oh my God, what are we? It's like keeping us in. So now like that definitely changes everything for us for the holidays, you know? And I was talking to my husband and, you know, I'm saying, you know, my parents are getting older.
I know,
I
think that too.
Right. And it's like, I haven't seen them since February. I mean, I have seen one of my sisters more recently when she and her husband came out to California this summer. But I just, you know, it's like you miss that time with them. And that's like time you can't get back, especially when they get to be older like that.
Yeah.
I mean, how long is
you never think about, I don't know if you think like this, but I do. And it's probably not a good trait, but I'm like, that won't happen to me. You know, like you hear, you know, oh, you know, someone passing, like a parent passing away and they never got to say goodbye. And you're like, that'll never happen to me. Or you're like, that'll never, you know, it's kind of that thing. And I think it's because we're probably so afraid that something's going to happen to us that it's almost like we don't even want to tread down that water. And so we're just protecting ourselves by thinking it's not going to happen to you. And I remember I said goodbye to my parents at the airport last November. So it's been a year. The kids haven't seen them since last August.
Oh, since they were in town? Since they were in town?
Since we were in Australia. And since we last saw them so the kids saw them last August, so a year and 3 months ago. I saw them in November, so it was about a year ago. And I was just really stressed. I was like premenstrual and I was at the airport and they like fucked up my ticket on the way back because I was supposed to fly with someone. And then that friend who's no longer a friend because she literally just ditched me. And I was like, I'm flying a lot and I don't like flying anyway. And Phoenix was with me and she was like, I paid her to come on the trip like as an assistant type thing just to help me out because I had Phoenix and I was working. So she was going to help with Phoenix. So anyway, so I had to fly back and I didn't like to fly anyway. And we didn't get the seats that we wanted. So we were right in the back of the plane and you know, I don't like flying. So it's where it bumps a lot. So I was just really stressed and I was at the airport and I was just like in such a state and I was so anxious and I was so PMSing and I was just such an asshole to my parents, like not directly to them, but just like I was just shitty, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just was like, okay, bye. I love you. I love you. And then I cried because, you know, I always cry at the airports because they're everything to me. Yeah. And then I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I don't want that to like, I hope I get like, I don't even want to say it out loud, but I don't want anything to happen. And then now I don't get to see them. Like I have to see them again, you know? And that's why it's so important the way you say goodbye. Like even when I fucking hate, I can't say this, my husband will be like, do that. But even when I'm having a terrible fight with my husband, which doesn't happen, like we don't have terrible fights, but like a disagreement or like a bicker. Yeah. And he walks out the door. I always say, I love you because I don't ever want to like, it's probably because I'm so selfish. I don't want to like live with the guilt. I don't want to live with the guilt that like, what if something happens and I didn't say I love you?
Well, you know what too? Like even going to bed, like you don't know, like somebody could die in the middle of the night. Like
I feel like that's less likely. I'm like, I'm going to bed, you asshole.
I know. Wait, do you guys do that? I mean, we definitely go to bed mad at each other sometimes.
I can't sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
So you guys have to talk it out like that night?
Yeah. And sometimes we've had, you know, in COVID, we've had disagreements that have lasted a couple of hours just about nothing. You know, you're stuck with each other and you're exhausted and your nerves are fried. And so you're just having this conversation that goes in a circle. I notice with us that when we get into these bickering, it's like, it's a habit and it's a circle and it keeps going. It can go for days. And then when we break the circle, it's like we're normal again.
Right.
And we can be fine for weeks, but once we get in that circle, it's hard to break. But you both have to break it. But I realize that the best thing to do is say how you're feeling.
Yeah.
Instead of like keep blaming other people or blaming your spouse or whatever.
What's that thing you always tell me? You say like, instead of saying like you fucked up, like how do you say it? How do you say it?
You're supposed to say, okay. So Roxy, when you ate the last piece of apple pie, it made me feel hurt because I felt like you didn't care about me, and that made me feel bad about myself, even if that wasn't your intention. Next time, if you're going to eat the last piece of apple pie, can you let me know? Or maybe we can share it, or maybe I would love to give it to you, but just say that it wasn't because you didn't care about me. And then if I said that to you, you'd be like, oh, okay, sure, no problem. But if I said to you, hey, Roxy, you're such an asshole. Like, you took the last piece of apple pie. Like, you're an asshole. What's wrong with you? Like, you can't help yourself. Like, you need to eat so much that, like, you need to eat the last piece of apple pie. Like, you're just such a selfish person. Now, what part of that argument, it's the same thing that you felt.
Right.
What is someone going to respond to, and what is someone not going to respond to?
Yeah. I mean, no, you're right. You're right. But I do like sometimes that back and forth a little bit where I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. So you get off on the drama.
I mean, a little bit. I think too, just from being like cooped up nonstop, like 24/7 and not being able to do anything. And like being on this verge of another possible lockdown. I mean,
I know, but listen, I totally believe this. You might disagree, but I believe that we cannot have an economy until we figure out COVID. We can have small pieces of the economy, and then all of a sudden it'll spike again. We'll stop things again. The kids can't go back to school. We can't be making the money we're supposed to be making. We can't be traveling unless we deal with the situation. Australia has had 0 cases in 13 days. They had one of the strictest COVID policies ever. You couldn't even go from state to state. So if your family was in Melbourne and you lived in Sydney, Melbourne's an hour away. You couldn't even go to that state. They locked everything down. If you were going on the border and you're like, oh my gosh, my husband or my father's dying, they wouldn't even let you in the border.
So you couldn't even go to like a funeral or what have you?
Nothing. They locked everything down. When you get off the plane, the Qantas people, that's what I've heard, they take you into a hotel, they escort you, they lock the door, and for 2 weeks you are not allowed to leave that room.
Wow. So that's really strict.
0 to 13 days of nothing.
Wow. So that's really how they kicked it in the butt. Like they really nailed it.
Locked it down.
See, here's the thing. And I'm a, firm believer in like science and everything. And like, yeah, definitely like getting, nipping it in the bud. My only problem though with that is the mental health of people, because I know being cooped up for a lot of people is really like wearing on them. And I've heard that some of these like domestic abuse cases and child abuse cases have gone up since this lockdown because people are stressed. They don't know how, they lose their jobs. They don't know how they're going to make money. Not that there's any excuse for abuse at all, ever. But yeah, no, I've heard. So it's kind of like one of those things where I don't know if you have to try to like balance it.
If we did, I believe we should have done it properly.
The first time.
9 months in, 8 months in, if we just fucking locked everything down for three weeks, even where you could not leave your house for 3 weeks, we could be living in a much different place right now.
Yeah, it could have been.
Just sacrifice 3 weeks of our lives to not leave the house. Our kids could be in school.
Wouldn't that be the dream?
We could be going to bars, Roxy.
I know. Oh, we could be dancing on tabletops right now. I mean, this is what we're missing out. We're missing out on like, we don't even know how good we had it before, at this point. I feel like,
I know.
Like, it seems like it really hasn't been that long since like the beginning of the year, but it feels like a lifetime ago.
Talking about not missing out, have you put into practice the thermescence from Miss Elisa Vitti? Do you remember the thermescence through your sex drive? You're supposed to.
Oh, yes. Miss Elisa Vitti.
Thermescence. I don't even think I'm saying it right, but every time I say to my husband thermescence, he's like, that word.
He's like, erase it from your vocabulary.
That word.
No, that was, okay, wait, no, it was called, what was it called? Her infradian cycle, right? That's his cycle.
So the thermescence, or I'm saying the word wrong, is when...
The plateau, right?
No, it's when you think... So before you have sex, you're meant to mentally prepare yourself for having sex that lasts at least an hour or something. But like you can't just like say, let's have sex and jump into it. So there has to be like a lead up, because she says that your whole body starts to open and like receive sexual pleasure when you start to actually get in the mood mentally. So that's something called thermescence. Your body starts to like wake up.
Okay.
And then what starts to happen is then when you start to have sex, it feels good from the start. And then you're supposed to do that orgasmic plateau, which is get to like a 6, a 7, then you go down to a 2, then a 7, then a 2, then a 7, then a 2, then a 7, then 2. And then once you get to an orgasm after 20 minutes, she said.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She did. Yes. So the thermescence, like that. So so that is when we start talking a little bit, like in the morning. Like she said that, right?
Yes,
Started talking in the morning and like kind of get each other excited a little bit.
Yes.
No, we haven't been doing that because
she was like, that thing. No.
We have not been doing that. Have you been doing that?
Listen, there's only the two of us in a room all the time. So yes, I would say that I do believe it works.
Okay.
Yeah, I really, and I don't think, because I do know I'm susceptible to, feelings when people say, oh, you look really sad, and then I start to feel sad. It must be the actor within me. So like, it's almost like I can tell myself I feel really good and make myself feel really good. I don't think it's that. I actually think it works. And I've had like some of the best experiences since that podcast.
Really? So you've really like implemented what she said.
Yeah, I have a stopwatch, and I'm like, no, it's 18 minutes. It's 18 minutes. Gotta wait till 20 minutes.
But wait, how's this working out in the hotel room with all 4 of you?
There's no sex in hotel rooms for now. But the Airbnbs.
Okay. Very nice. So once the kids are down, it's game time. It's game time.
20 minutes though is a long time to try to find.
Yeah, 20 minutes is a long time. But like for the guy, I'm just trying to like, I'm like,
why are we worried about that part, Roxy?
No,
like,
we're not.
We need to talk? Like,
no. But you know how like Sting does that like tantric sex or whatever? Like, how do guys maintain that level? Like, I feel like guys get like excited, and so it's like, how do they maintain that without like blowing their load?
It's almost like, you have to have self-control, and then you stop and you start and you stop and you start and you stop and you start. But I think it's probably just a practice like everything else is, it's just a practice of trying to keep your mind and your body like, not like in sync.
Right. Like kind of keeping it like.
But you must try it. What's happening with you? You're not having any sex over there in the
this week?
Household?
I know. The Manning household is not feeling sexy times this week. We're in the grips of, coming to terms with the fact that we're probably not going to be leaving again through the end of the year.
Is that what they're saying? Because I've been gone. So is that what they're really saying?
I mean, I think what they're saying is, it could change by the time this airs, but I believe they're saying another 4 to 6 week sort of full quarantine again.
What does that mean in LA?
I think it means, well, if the friend is right, the travel ban would be like a 2 weeks. I guess what they're doing in Australia, like a 2 week, once you come into the borders of California, like a 2 week not curfew, quarantine, shutting things down again, shutting down restaurants, shutting down, businesses. So I think it could go back into like possibly what we were seeing in March and April of this year.
Which is to go, and it's like walks outside, and that's
right. And so it's just like, for me, it's so hard to like kind of wrap my head around that and to feel, because I think for me too, sex, like I have to feel like optimistic and sort of happy and good, hopeful.
I like to have depressed sex all the time. I'm like, the world is ending. Please lay on top of me.
Maybe I should try that. Maybe I should just totally
Every time I'm depressed, I want to have sex. I just need someone to make me feel better. Yeah.
Maybe I should like do that. Maybe that is a good technique to try.
So great for your that's what Elisa said. She said that it's really good for serotonin. It's really good for your brain and for your skin and for your mood and to feel optimistic.
So it brings you back up like a little bit, right?
No pun intended. Yes.
Yeah, no pun intended. Yeah. And how long are you up for?
Yeah. Probably just a day, just to start all over the next day.
I know, right? Until you hear this, Mommy.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. I just keep saying like, please don't get pregnant. Please don't get pregnant. Please don't get pregnant.
Can you imagine on a road trip? Like,
don't. I might be. I mean, I always say I might be.
You're like, there's nothing stopping it from happening, right?
Okay, I want to talk about someone who is probably not going to have kids anytime soon because he's only 26.
Okay, who?
But did you see Harry Styles' Gucci dress on the cover of US Vogue?
Oh, yeah. See, I like this, like Harry Styles doing this like gender bending style. I think it's like fresh and cool and different. What do you think?
You know what I think? I think that we have, even us who aren't in our 20s,
right?
You get spoon fed what's right and what's wrong and what's different and what's not different and what's, acceptable and what's not acceptable and what's pretty and what's not pretty. You get spoon fed that our whole lives. And like society keeps telling us what's okay and what's not okay. And I don't know if he's saying like, oh, I like to wear women's clothes. I think what he's, and if he did, that's amazing too. Yeah. I think what he's saying is like, why do we make these beautiful things and say, well, only women can wear them? And why do we have pink and say only women can do that? And why, Lennon wears blue all the time and everyone calls her a boy. But it's like, why do we associate blue with boys? Like, when did that even happen? Like, when did we get so molded to the idea that all these gender biases were like the right thing? And okay, so like even look at like, why do we even look at the Vogue magazine, the cover of Vogue with him in a dress on it and go, oh, that's weird? Why do we even think that? How was that even implemented?
That's a good point, because it's like, I can't even recall when in my memory I learned that like pink and frills and, what is perceived as feminine, is what I should be wearing as a girl, per se, and why, men should be wearing what is perceived to be masculine. It's really interesting how that has been indoctrinated in us, way back. Yeah. But I think it is really cool. And you know what else he says too, which I think is cool? I think he kind of doesn't say one way or another about his sexuality, which who cares anyway?
Yeah,
like either way.
What does it matter? Yeah.
What does it matter? Exactly. And I think that is so refreshing. Kind of along with this, who else I really like, who sort of like throws the gender rules out the window, is Jason Momoa. He wears pink all the time, and he wears scrunchies in his hair. And I love that. I'm like, why can't men wear pink and wear scrunchies and, or wear a skirt if they want? Like, and why can't women wear pants and wear blue and, shave their head and whatever it is, it's like, let people be. But I like this. I think it's really refreshing. And I think it's really cool that Vogue took that step and put him on the cover,
Well, I remember, I think back in the day when he started to do this, I'd heard that like his people around him were like, just be careful, don't do it. It's kind of like the Ricky Martin thing. Ricky Martin was
closeted for so long.
Yeah. And what does that do to you mentally when you feel like you cannot be who you are because of why? Because you feel like your female fans won't like you if you don't want women. Like there's so many, I would say, actors that I know personally who are on film and on TV who are gay, and they don't come out as gay because they're worried about their female base. And so I think what he's doing is like letting people accept themselves. There's so many people that he has saved by doing this, because people now look at him and go, oh, men look at him or girls who want to dress in boys' clothes or whatever, look at him and go, okay, he's one of the most beautiful, talented, interesting, smart, young talents out there. And if he's doing it, then it's okay for me to do it too. And I'm not so strange as what the world would say that I was. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know for me, like growing up, I mean, to like a smaller degree, but I was a tomboy. Like I didn't wear skirts. I didn't wear dresses. I didn't even want to wear them, you know? So for him, and I know a lot of little boys growing up feel, paint their nails and wear skirts and want to play with dolls. And it's like, that should all be fine. That should all be fine. It should be like, do what is right for you or do what you want to do. You're not hurting anybody. You're only hurting yourself if you can't be yourself.
My daughter wanted to be, and she wanted to be Venom for Halloween because she just loves all the boy stuff. And she's always like to me, like, why are all the boy superheroes so cool? And I know that girl superheroes are cool now, but they didn't used to be. You know what I mean? Right. I don't think that, like, there's obviously a new range of all these kick-ass superheroes and like movies being made about women superheroes, and that's great. But like, she was like, I want to be Venom. Like, why can't I be Venom? And I'm like, of course you can. You can dress any way you want to. But I think when this all happened, I think people did, you also have to understand people who haven't seen this a lot in their lives. And we can't judge people who don't understand this because they've never been around it. My mom always used to say, like, how can you judge someone who doesn't know about Christ if the person lives in a small, tiny little town, has never got out of the town, and Christ was never mentioned? Like, how do you just know? We can't put people down who don't understand. But now, because more people are doing it, now it's up to them to try to understand.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And thankfully we have, more resources now. And like people like Harry Styles will put himself out there and, dress how he wants to dress without, worrying about the backlash, So I think that's great. I think that's great, You know
what else we can do? Apparently, we can listen to his music. Like into our bodies. Did you hear about that?
Wait, what? No, tell me.
Okay, so there's this article that came out that said that you're not going to need earphones anymore. You're going to be able to have music like projected into your cells, so you can actually like hear the music in your brain, in your head, without using earphones.
Wait, that is kind of a trip, not gonna lie.
I know.
It kind of weirds me out because I feel like it's really invasive. Like that means like what else can people put in your body? You know what I mean? Like what other information can they put in your body or extract from you? Does that freak you out?
Yeah, it's funny. My mom said, like, how Adam, Eve took a bite of the apple, right? And everything went to shit. What devices are we all on?
Shit.
Apple.
That's true. The apple. Yeah.
With the bite taken out of it.
Oh, I've not really ever thought about that.
I know. My mom's like, if the world is going to end, it's probably going to be through technology. Think about it. Think about all the technology. Think about all these advances that are going to happen, and like robotic technology, and how maybe humans could become obsolete because at some point, you don't ever have to go speak to someone at the bank. You just have a robot there.
Oh,
you don't need someone to serve you food. You can have a robot serve you food. Robot can cook you food.
Robot can cook you food. Robot can work in a factory. Robot can work in a lot of different businesses.
You're like, do. Your mind is like going,
I know.
Oh no. It's like Twilight Zone.
Next week we'll have our robots in place of us for the podcast.
I just feel like technology is moving so fast, and it really does scare the shit out of me because I mean, I'm pretty tech savvy, but even I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on that even I don't know about.
Right. And what about like the whole Big Brother thing too? Do you believe that like with all of these technological advances and like all this technology that's happening, do you feel like Big Brother is watching us through all of these devices and like through all these like satellite? Okay.
Oh my God, it's been proven. I mean, that documentary. So is it called Social?
Yeah, the Social Dilemma.
The Social Dilemma on Netflix talks about the fact that all your data, everything about you, even when you talk, gets picked up. So what happens is like for example, the other day I said to Sean, I was like, oh, I would love to get Phoenix a new bike. For the next 5 days, I was getting bike ads on my phone, on my computer, on our radio, which is so strange because I'm like, how is the radio now being tailored to what I said to my husband in a private conversation? Your phones are absolutely listening to us.
Isn't that crazy?
Our phones are absolutely listening to us. Absolutely, they are. Try it out. Literally say something to David tonight about something very specific. Like, oh my gosh, I want to get a pink flamingo for Bray. Say it a few times. Pink flamingo ads will start to come up.
I'm going to say a big cock ring.
I know.
And see what happens.
I don't know about the X-rated
big
stuff.
Cock ring.
You might have to go into a porn site, and then on the porn site, it's like, I know that your preferences are big cock rings. This is your section. This is your part. Roxy, I've chosen suggestions for you. And I'll have all the cock ring ones, all the cock ring videos. I bet it would. Like pornography is fine to a certain extent, like for certain people. I think when it starts to become less of a like novelty and it becomes like an addiction or something you're thinking about, that's just
all the time, right?
Yeah. Like it's getting darker and deeper, and what you need to be sexually satisfied gets worse and deep. Then I don't find that stuff healthy. You know?
Right. And if it makes your partner like upset or it's like, abusive in some way, then that's no bueno.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's true. We have to have like there's got to be
some if you're in Vegas.
You just won like, $100,000 on slots.
Yeah, and it's like the $39.99 video that you literally watched for 3.5 minutes in Vegas. It's so dumb. You watch it for like a minute.
I know.
And like, oh, fuck, I just spent $42.
Wait, hold up. How do you know? Care to share?
Only in Vegas, Roxy. Only in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
What happens? What happens in Vegas does stay in Vegas. Now, there's like so much going on in the world. There was something I wanted to tell you about. There was this thing. Oh, so we're talking about social media. Well, actually, I could get really gross here because I have this toilet phobia, and yet another article came out about this.
Oh my God. You have a toilet phobia?
Oh my God. Okay, so I used to live.
I have not heard this.
I have not told you about my toilet phobia.
I've heard about your cock ring fantasy, but I've not heard about your toilet phobia. How is that possible?
Oh God. Like, seriously? It sucks that I even have to go to the bathroom. Because
really? You don't like to sit on the toilet?
If I am not in my house, I never sit on the toilet. I hang. I always hang. I
have a toilet unphobia, whereas like I could go to the bathroom. I think I went to the toilet in the car when we were driving. I eat chocolate. I literally be like, hey, Sean, can you bring me a glass of wine with some dark chocolate? I'm going to be here for a while.
You're like,
it's going to take a minute. Can I please have some? Yeah. Can I please get my computer, my wine, a piece of chocolate? He's like, do you want the door shut? And I'm like, nah, I'm fine.
Oh my God. I used to live down the street in Los Angeles from a store that sold exclusively toilets. Now, for somebody like me who has a full-blown toilet-phobia, and I don't even know where it came from. All I know is my entire life, I fucking hate toilet. Like, it just literally, the thought of a toilet makes me shudder. And so, like, if I see toilets on TV, I have to, like, turn my head. It's kind of like the blood drawing thing that you saw that I did, when that happened. So, toilet-phobia. Now, it's not new, but yet another article has come out that says every time you flush the toilet, a huge amount of bacteria flies out of the toilet and like sprays the wall, sprays you in the air. I'm just like,
it's a shitty day.
Yeah.
It's a really shitty
That's
day.
a super, super shitty day. Talk about the shits.
Yeah, jeez. Day.
I mean, how do we avoid that though? I'm so freaked out by it.
Roxy, I don't know how old you are, but I'm sure you've taken a poop every day of your life for however old that you have been. Probably when you were younger, probably way more poos. Okay. I believe that for the amount of poos that you've had in a toilet, for the amount of days that are in a year, for the amount of times that you've shit in a toilet bowl, if you are going to get sick from bacteria from the poop bowl, you would have had it done by now. Do you know what I mean? Like, there are things where you go, oh yeah, that really bad Italian, like really bad sushi place, don't go there because I will get food poisoning. And 1 out of 2 times you get food poisoning. Most time you poop, you don't get sick.
But then you're wearing all the like bacteria that's flown out of the toilet bowl, wearing it all over you.
If I had one of those lights, those blue lights that scan my body.
The black lights.
Because I have children who poop everywhere and touch things and vomit and sniff and blah, and blah, and my husband who's touching me, and like I'm probably covered in white whatever the bad spots are.
Oh my God. Like it would just light up like a Christmas tree, right?
Light up. I would just light up. I would just light up.
I mean, I just cannot let it go. I need to like work on this because I get these things in my head. I don't know if like people out there are the same way, but I get these things in my head and I just cannot let go of them. Like I'm like thinking about
the really fucking,
do you get that?
Really weird. Yeah, I get OCD things in my head that are strange. And even Tori, remember DeVito from Pretty Little Liars?
Yes.
Said that she didn't like corners. But I get weird things like Sean can't kiss me. I think I told you this. He has to kiss me 4 times before he leaves. He can't, because if he doesn't kiss me 4, then something bad will happen. That stuff like that. Like when I say goodbye to my mom, I do 4 X's. Like if she does 2 X's, I know I'm in trouble. I just always know it's going to be 4. I don't like it when Phoenix like says things like, "Oh, we're going to have an accident." I actually make her take it back, and I know that's probably not healthy for her. I just don't like putting stuff into the universe like that. So when my superstitions come, it's more like it's like a superstition thing rather than like a weird touch thing. Yeah,
like a weird touch thing, like the blood draw and the toilet.
I'm fine with blood. I don't like to take my mom. Okay, it was a doctor's daughter, like you are, and she was really sick when she was really young many times, and so she has like this aversion to taking medication. So I really freak out when I take like anything. Like for example, I didn't take anything for my C-section. I took Advil.
How in the hell did you do that?
Because I was more afraid of taking the morphine than I was of the pain of the C-section.
And that is a fucking C-sections are so painful. Like they're so painful. It was the worst pain ever,
but taking the morphine made me more scared.
Really? So you were like, I'm just going to deal with it. I'm not going to do the drip. I was like, give me more of that drip. Oh my God.
Do any of the drip. But I will say that I was so morphined out that I didn't really experience that whole 4 to 5 days.
No. Oh yeah. You're just so out of it.
Yeah, but I wasn't the second one. The second I was really present.
You were really present.
In pain, but present. Pain is a really grounding thing. Pain. Yeah. You really get into the moment. You definitely feel like you're there.
You're not on a beach in Tahiti.
No, you're definitely in the hospital with your stomach cut open. Yes, I was definitely present for the second.
Oh my God. See, you're a trooper. I couldn't do it. I had to have that pain medication. I was like,
I keep thinking about Roxy, like about having another child because I just don't think I'm done with the names.
What's the next name? Do you already have the next one picked out? I really want a girl
named James.
That's cute.
Isn't it? Like now you want to have a baby. Now you're like, have a baby.
Yes, I'm like, do it. Don't listen to Sean. I always wanted to have a
Ziggy. I wanted a boy named Ziggy, but then Ashley Simpson just had a boy named Ziggy Blue, and Lennon's middle name's Blue. I was like, that's weird. So I like that. And I also like Whip for boy. I think it's
how do you spell it? Just
W-I-P. Sean likes Whip.
Oh, that's cute. I've not heard that, I don't think yet. Who has
such a cool boy's name?
Have you heard it from somebody, or is it like?
I think I was watching the news. You're so good at politics. I was texting all my friends, and they like had no idea. And I was like, I'm probably on the upper echelon. Like I would say, I'm about politics. I'm about like 65 because I had to do everything for getting the citizenship. But I'd say are about 95.
Oh my God, thank you. That is so nice of you. You know what it is? I had a past life that I worked in politics, so I still kind of keep up with it. But yeah, it's kind of like Hollywood. It's like they're both parallel universes. There's a lot of drama. Oh my gosh.
I think sweet. Because this election has really opened my eyes to so much. I really want to get involved. I realized I really want to be an advocate. I want us to stand up for what we believe. Just like everyone, I want to be a voice in some way when it comes to, helping and getting the word out and just being more involved in all of it. So
Yeah, you've been really good about it. You've been putting things out there for sure, especially this election cycle, I feel like. Well, I think it was also an eye-opener for you. It was an eye-opener for all of us, I think, because we've never quite had an election like the one we've had just recently. So I think for all of us, it's been an eye-opener. And I think it's just really important that no matter what side people are on or who they believe in or who they support, that they should vote. That's it.
Yeah. I still don't understand. And I get that there's a lot of people who can't vote because they're under 18. But I do not understand how they're saying 75 million voted for Biden, 71 million as we stand right now voted for Trump. Where the fuck are the rest of the people?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people that just didn't vote still, I think.
There's 300 million people in the States. That is half of America who did not vote.
Right. That still didn't
literally
vote.
Their lives are at stake in so many ways. Why aren't people voting?
Yeah.
In Australia, you have to vote.
Yeah, it's a law, isn't it?
It's a law.
Yeah, you have to vote. What happens if you don't vote in Australia? You get fined. Yep. See, I know. I almost wish we had a law like that here so people would get out and vote because it's
And if
important.
the answer is like, I don't know who to vote for, then start to research and educate ourselves on policy.
Right. Because honestly, if you don't vote, that's also saying something. Yeah, exactly. It's also a vote. So it's like whether you vote or not, you're still voting. I mean, you're voting in some sense, it's like it's better to at least control your voice and put it towards who you want it to go towards than to just not vote and then whoever that benefits, it benefits, So it's always good to do that. And the most powerful thing that every citizen has is their voice, right. So it's to use your voice. And if you make sure you're registered and then get out there and vote. That's what is so important. But I do have to say, I am glad that this election cycle, even though we're still, dealing with a lot right now, I'm glad the actual election itself is over and done with, I
can ask you a real question that you can, because you know more about this than I do. Why do we have third party? What is the point, other than millions and millions and millions of votes being wasted?
I think it's people that are put out with the two major parties that have, created all these other, smaller parties. It doesn't really do anything. It provides another outlet for people, but it doesn't contribute to the overall. No, no one's ever won.
We're just wasting votes.
Right. It is. It is. Ideally, it would be great if it wasn't like a two-party system in some ways, because then you would get more of, different people's point of views and things like that. But I think that because we're so rooted in this country as a two-party system that unless, I don't even know what would have to change to make it viable to have a multiple party system like that. But, it's just who we are in America. It's Democrat or Republican,
And do you think the electoral system is antiquated?
That's hard to say. In some ways, I think it is, but then it also, I see both sides of the coin. I think it is antiquated because it was, obviously developed so long ago, but it also does give a voice to the smaller states and the places where a lot of these politicians wouldn't go. Right? Yeah. They wouldn't go to campaign. They wouldn't stop and go to these places if they, didn't have to. But because we had the Electoral College, that these states count, so they do get to stop in and meet these people and meet these citizens. So I do think in some ways it's good, but it is kind of weird to see some a candidate win the popular vote, but then not win whatever the presidency because we have the Electoral College,
Right. So maybe it could be a good system because there's 300 million people in the United States. There's 30 million people in Los Angeles. And Los Angeles is so populated, right? So if it was just about the popular vote, then a lot of those votes would come from California more than these other places. So it kind of gives people a percentage of the pie.
It does. It does. And it like gives like, it gives these other states and these smaller towns and rural America and like, middle America, like that are not in these big cities on the coast. It gives them a voice, So I do see the value in it because, really everybody should be equal, like every state, so I do see the value in it, but it does get it's just a little confusing when, like I said, like when a candidate wins the popular vote, but then doesn't win the presidency because of the electoral college. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting system in Australia. How is it done? Like, how are the elections there?
I mean, it's been a long time. I haven't been there for like 16 years. But it seems to be a simpler process. Like every single person has to vote and the person who wins the amount of votes wins.
Yeah.
But you do have to remember that Australia is much smaller than, it's the size of California. So it's like easier to, even the COVID policy that we were talking about, like even the COVID policies, it's much easier to implement in a place that's not so big, So it's harder to lock down all of America with 300 million people than it is 30 million in Australia. It's the same thing with elections and policies. And, it's like the gun laws in Australia. There was a huge, like a shooting that happened a while back. And ever since that happened, they literally banned guns. And that could happen because it was an easier thing to do. There was 30 million people. You're not allowed to buy a gun in Australia.
Oh, I see. You know what? So, that is one of the things, one of the bright sides of being, sort of locked down in quarantine is that we haven't seen a lot of those mass shootings like we were seeing pre-COVID, where these school shootings were taking place. We're not seeing, knock on wood, we're not seeing a lot of that right now. So, I mean, at least that's a silver lining to all of this, I mean, I guess you have to kind of look at the world's a mess
right now. And
it is.
But I do, you always have to look for that silver lining, like you said, and you always have to look for the hope. And I think in the last year for me, I have found hope in the people and I have been just humbled by humans in general. And I have seen such humanity in the best way come out in the last year, and how we can be helpers, and how we can look after our neighbors and how we can fight for people and how we can, lead with love and dignity and gratitude. And if there's anything of this time, it's like you really learn what a country or a town or a family is made of. It's like when something terrible goes on, you always see the helpers come out and you see the good in people. You also see the bad in people. But this year has been horrific and it's also been so beautiful.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you know what, like you're saying, we are America. Like we go through trials and tribulations in this country. And I I think that we live in the greatest country in the world. I mean, I really do. I still think we are who our backbone is, we're strong, we're resilient. And, we truly do believe in freedom and liberty, and choice and, being able to follow your dreams and live your life. And I do think we will come to terms with things and sort of, come to a place. I'm just hoping for the roaring 20s again, because we had the Spanish flu in 1919, then that brought on the roaring 20s and we've got the roaring 20s again, hopefully coming up. Right.
And you know what? Don't you want to never talk about the Spanish flu again? I've talked more about Pennsylvania and the Spanish flu in the last freaking year. I'm done. No more Pennsylvania. No more Spanish flu.
Right. You're like, I know more about
Two
this.
Most overused things that we've talked about.
I know. Who knew that the world would come down to Pennsylvania and the Spanish flu?
That is the title of this episode.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it's been so nice to chat to you.
I know.
It's been a long time since we've done a twofer.
I love the twofers. Can we do one Never Have I Ever road trip edition since you are on a road?
Because my children are going to bang in here and then you're screwed for the rest of the episode.
Mommy. All right. So you know what to do. YouTube viewers, go to our iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts and listen to our Never Have I Ever.
And on that note, we should probably go before my kids come in and everyone thinks I'm such a weirdo that they never have listened to the show again.
Good plan. Good plan.
Yeah, good plan. My hair is so dry here, by the way. It's
oh my God. Yeah. No, you know why? Because the air is so dry and it's so thin. It's like that thin mountain air.
Can't deal.
You have to put extra.
Is Dallas better with the air dryness?
Yeah, it's better. It's much more humid in Texas than it is.
Okay,
Yeah. So you will be, it goes from one extreme. You're in like the driest part and you'll go to like the most humid part of our country.
Look so good.
Totally. You're like, just a little humidity. It's good.
Well, it's so nice to see you, Roxy.
I know. It's so good to see you too. I'm glad you're making it through that mountain life. I mean, you were just like working your way. Yeah, you got it, girl.
And guys, listen, subscribe, comment, follow, share
all
the
of it.
podcast. Do all of it.
Yes,
and
tell your
follow
friends.
us on Women on Top Official on Instagram.
And Women on Top Podcast on Facebook.
And I am Tammin Sursok.
And I am Roxy Manning.
And we are
Women on